The ICU lights hummed softly as the young doctor leaned over her still body, his hands gentle, his eyes full of quiet reverence. Beneath the sterile scent of antiseptic, there was something sacred in the way he removed the old bandage from her delicate arm and replaced it with a fresh one. She hadn't moved in weeks. Not a flutter of an eyelid, not a twitch of a finger. The machines beeped steadily, charting the rhythm of a life suspended in silence. And yet, in that moment, just as his fingers brushed her skin, her eyelids trembled. Then opened, and the very course of two lives changed forever. Sparkles if you believe in kindness, in the magic of second chances, and in the kind of love that blossoms from the unlikeliest places. Please like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to the channel, Stories Collection. Your support means the world. Sparkles. Dr. Samuel Evans was not your typical hospital doctor. Only 28 and already hailed as one of the most promising young minds in neurosurgery, he had traded the gleam of private hospitals for a quieter, more grounded life at St. Mary's, a city hospital tucked between aging buildings and forgotten alleys. He was brilliant, no doubt, but it was his heart that drew patients in like warmth in winter. He never saw cases, he saw people. People with stories, pain, dreams, and families holding onto hope like it was oxygen. He had been assigned to her case reluctantly. Not because he didn't care, quite the opposite. The woman in room 217 had no family listed, no visitors, no one to sit by her side and speak gently into the quiet. But she was different. Her file read, Claire Monroe. Age 33. Entrepreneur. Founder of Monroe Biotech. Estimated net worth, $87 million. A name once whispered across tech forums and investment circles now lay buried in tubes and hospital sheets. A car crash late one rainy evening had stolen everything: mobility, memory, identity. Yet Samuel never once treated her as a name on a chart or a number in a bank. He came in every day, even when he wasn't scheduled. He read to her, classic novels, poetry, even news articles. He changed her bandages himself, always careful, always speaking softly, hoping that something might slip through the veil of her coma. Maybe, just maybe, she could hear him. And maybe that voice would guide her home. What no one knew was that Samuel, too, was running. Not from scandal or crime, but from grief. 3 years ago, he had lost his mother to a rare neurological disorder. She had been his guiding light, the reason he became a doctor in the first place. Watching her fade had torn something inside him. And when Claire was wheeled in that first night, battered and unconscious, he had felt it, an invisible thread. Something he couldn't explain. Weeks passed. Then months. Still, she lay unmoving. The hospital board urged the reallocation of resources, but Samuel fought for her. Quietly, respectfully, he reminded them that life wasn't a cost-benefit chart. That dignity and hope weren't bound to timeframes. And still, he sat beside her. He told her about his day, about the funny patient on the third floor, about the birds that gathered outside the window at dawn. And then came that morning. He entered the room early, before the nurses began their shift. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting soft lines across her face. Her hair had grown, and he had asked the staff to braid it so it wouldn't tangle. He rolled up her sleeve gently to change the dressing on her arm. As he began, his fingers brushed her skin, and for the first time in months, her fingers twitched. He froze. Then her eyes fluttered. "Claire," he whispered, though his voice trembled. And then, she opened her eyes. They were the color of stormy skies, wide with confusion and fear. Machines beeped wildly, nurses rushed in. But she didn't look at them. Her eyes found his and held. As if some quiet recognition echoed through the fog of her mind. Recovery was slow. Her muscles had weakened, and speech came in fragments. But her mind, brilliant, agile, curious, began to light up again. She remembered nothing of the accident, nor of her company. But she remembered his voice. The same voice that had spoken to her every day. She didn't remember what he had said. Only that it had been warm, steady, familiar, safe. Samuel remained by her side, now officially reassigned to her rehabilitation. Their conversations began with awkward questions and brief answers but soon grew deeper. She learned about his past, about his mother, about the way he saw the world, not in black and white, but in quiet shades of empathy. And he learned about her passion for science, about her fear of failure, about the loneliness of building an empire only to discover you had no one to share it with. One afternoon, as he wheeled her out to the hospital garden, Claire looked up at the sky and said, "Maybe I was meant to fall, just so I could land somewhere different." He looked at her and whispered, "Maybe you were meant to wake up in a world where someone was waiting." They didn't call it love at first, not out loud. There were hesitations, questions. Was she falling for the doctor who saved her? Was he falling for the woman he once treated like a delicate dream? But love doesn't wait for labels. It reveals itself in glances. In the way she smiled when he walked into the room. In the way he steadied her hand during her first steps. In the silence between them that felt fuller than most conversations. As weeks turned into seasons, Claire regained her strength, and chose not to return to her old life. She sold her company quietly, using the funds to start a foundation supporting patients with traumatic injuries. Together, they opened a small community center near the hospital, where Samuel treated patients free of charge, and Claire mentored young women in tech and innovation. And on a warm spring evening, beneath the cherry blossoms in that same hospital garden, she took his hand and said, "You brought me back. But more than that, you made me want to stay." He smiled. "I didn't save you, Claire. You saved yourself. I just happened to be there, loving you quietly." Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories Collection. And if you believe that love, healing, and second chances are real, let us know in the comments. Your voice matters more than you think. Sparkles. Memo special request before you go, comment below, do you believe love can grow from the darkest places? We'd love to hear your thoughts. She hadn't expected life after the coma to feel so different. Everything had changed. The memories she did recover were fragments of meetings, contracts, people clapping in boardrooms, and yet none of those faces had the warmth she found in one young doctor who changed her bandages and read her poetry. Claire realized that her old life had been full of noise but painfully empty of true connection. Before the accident, success had been her compass. She had chased it tirelessly. Now, she wanted something else. Something softer. Something real. The day she walked without assistance for the first time, Samuel was at her side. She had insisted on trying, against the advice of the therapists. Her legs trembled, her breath came short, but she held onto his arm, and with determination etched into her features, she took one step. Then another. And then another. "I'm not broken," she whispered, tears filling her eyes. "No," Samuel said softly, "you're becoming." They celebrated with a quiet dinner at the hospital cafeteria. He brought candles and a tiny radio playing vintage jazz. Nurses smiled from afar, pretending not to notice. In that moment, surrounded by the sterile white of the hospital but warmed by laughter and heartbeats, something shifted between them. They weren't just patient and doctor anymore. They were survivors, companions, soulmates finding one another in a world that rarely gives second chances. But life has its doubts, even in miracles. One evening, Claire overheard two doctors in the hallway. "She's falling for him. Poor guy doesn't see it. Or maybe he does and won't admit it. He's the reason she's alive. It's probably gratitude. Trauma bonding." Those words clung to Claire like shadows. Was she confusing love with attachment? Was Samuel simply too kind to pull away? That night, she didn't sleep. And the next day, she asked for a new doctor. Samuel was stunned. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," she replied gently. You did everything right. But I need to know if what I feel is real, or just something I owe you." He understood, even though it shattered him. He stepped back. Claire moved into a quiet cottage near the ocean 2 towns away. She needed space, to think, to rediscover herself away from hospital gowns and whispered prayers. She spent her mornings walking barefoot on the sand, her afternoons painting and journaling, and her evenings staring at the stars, wondering why a man's face refused to leave her heart. 2 months passed. One afternoon, as she watered her tiny rose garden, a familiar voice called from the gate. "I heard you needed new flowers." She turned around slowly, and there he was, holding a ridiculous bouquet of sunflowers and wildflowers, wearing a nervous smile and hope in his eyes. "How did you find me? You once told me that your dream house would smell like saltwater and roses. I figured I'd start there." She laughed, the first real laugh in weeks. "Why are you here?" "Because I love you. Not because I saved you. Not because of what you went through. But because you're you. And I miss your stories. I miss your courage. I miss you." Her eyes welled up. "You didn't save me, Samuel. You reminded me I was worth saving." And then, she ran to him. Limping slightly, but stronger than ever. She threw her arms around him, and for the first time, their love wasn't quiet. It roared. From that day forward, they built a life not of headlines or corporate deals, but of laughter, compassion, shared meals, and early morning walks. They co-founded the Second Light Foundation, a place for people recovering from medical trauma, grief, and life's many storms. And every week, Samuel held community talks about hope, science, and the heart's resilience, while Claire worked one-on-one with survivors who needed a voice to say, "I've been there, too." Years later, on the anniversary of the day she woke up, they sat together on a bench in the hospital garden, now transformed with fountains, flowers, and memories. "Do you ever miss the old life?" he asked gently. She smiled. "No, because I found the only thing I never had in it, you." The sun dipped low, casting golden light across their faces. They held hands, not in fear, or need, or duty, but in pure, uncomplicated love. Sparkles, if this story brought a tear to your eye or filled your heart with warmth, please like, share, and subscribe to Stories Collection. Your support helps us tell more stories that remind the world of kindness, courage, and love that heals. Sparkles. Memo: please comment below. Has life ever surprised you with a second chance? We'd love to read your story.